God of War Ragnarok is going to be one of the deepest games yet. Building on God of War 2018, Ragnarok is going to be the final chapter of the Norse saga. However, in this video, I want to show you how deep, brilliant, and well executed God of War 2018 story truly was, and show you that God of War Ragnarok storytelling is going to be on a whole other level. Storytelling is so much more harder than it looks, and there are so many aspects in creating a story. If you've played God of War 2018, you know that there are so many things in the beginning of the game that connects to the end of the game, or the stuff at the end of the game reference stuff at the beginning of the game, making it one complete story. Having this style of storytelling allows the player's minds to be completely blown once they realize all of this stuff that's happening, and on your second and third playthrough, you begin to notice a lot of these things. This idea had existed in Cory Barlog's head for years before making God of War 2018, and it all started with a regret he had about God of War 2. Although many of us consider God of War 2 a perfect game story-wise, Cory did not like the way Gaia was revealed as the narrator, a problem he said was so easily fixed, and the problem that has haunted him for years. I think this shows how much he cared about his stories and the things that he creates. Nobody playing this game would think of this as a mistake, but somebody who loves and is passionate about what they create, they're obviously going to nitpick, and they're their own biggest critic, and I love the fact that Cory Barlog talked about this, even briefly. After God of War 2, Cory took some time away from Santa Monica and briefly was at LucasArts, where he got to read through a TV show George Lucas was working on. Cory said that they wrote 50 episodes before they even made a single one. They did this because they could take things from the beginning in episode 1 and reference it in episode 50. From then on, Cory would adopt this strategy in everything he would work on, and his design choice would be on full display over a decade later, as this was the design choice for God of War 2018. Here are just a few things that I noticed. You can see the Blades of Chaos at the start of the game when Atreus goes into a small hidden bunker. Atreus finds out his name is Loki at the end of the game. However, in Kratos' home, you can see the name Loki in runes. Even moments at the start of the game echoed at the end, but somewhat changed to have a different meaning. As soon as the game starts, you see Kratos wrapping his arms up in bandages, and at the end, he lets them go. Kratos reaching out to his son to comfort him, but unable to do so. However, at the end of the game, while spreading Faye's ashes, Kratos easily puts his hand on Atreus' shoulder, showing how much he's grown as a character. There are so many more examples you can take, and Cory even mapped out the entire God of War world, even saying in an interview with Jason Schreier a little bit ago that he created enough to actually fill 5 whole games.
We're kind of hinting at all those things. How are we actually going to make that happen?
Oh, no.
You don't worry about that at all.
So much of it is worked out already.
Oh,
like
okay.
when I was working on the structure of this one, to get this one to work right, I had to think about everything that was going to happen after this, right? And it was in the time away from Santa Monica, I actually was working over at LucasArts for a little bit and got to read through that TV show that George Lucas was working on and see that they wrote like 50 episodes before they ever even approached the studio to do the thing. And it was, explained to me by some of the writers that they did that so that they could take stuff from episode 50 and put it into episode 1, right? And to actually pepper everything throughout. And I was like, man, that's really interesting. Like, you really have to think ahead. You can't just take it on faith that you're going to figure something out and then it'll be coming in later. So I was like, all right, now, and I approached everything that I worked on after that to really say, like, when I'm mapping out the world, I'm going to map out the world. Right.
There's a really sad moment if you watch the director's commentary on Firefly, where they're like walking through a big city and there's a billboard in the background, and one of the people points out, they're like, oh, there's that company that, yeah, that was gonna be season 2.
Oh.
Anyway. So it's fun when you get to do it.
Right, yeah.
When you actually get to pull it
Yeah, that's
off.
true. Like, I have to rely on the fact that no matter what I do, I'm gonna think it would always be able to be something we set up. And even if you don't set it up, not a lot of people may pick up on it. So some of it is really in the sense that if you get to experience the next thing, you get to have the pleasure of looking back and going, holy crap, they thought about that all the way back there, right? Instead of like hand-wavy thing, and you just sort of figured it out and figured out a way to shoehorn it in. It's like, no, every single thing in this game means something because it is something later. And it's like everything that we set up and pay off in this game is giving you that fulfilling experience. But it also has that sense of, but what does that mean? What does that mean? Why did they do that? Like, that's what I want, is for people to keep. I know you probably know.
Now, what I find interesting about this is that he also mentioned that interview just because he can make 5 whole games doesn't mean he's not going to make one. And we found out when God of War Ragnarok was actually revealed for the first time that this is going to be the final game in the Norse saga. Now, I think this is extremely important, which means that all of this setup Corey could have made or did make to matter much later on in the story. It's all going to be condensed in God of War Ragnarok, and this is why I'm so excited about this game. There are very little references and things that you can make connections that's supposed to happen in the future, and the fact that we're going to get everything explained and all of these loose ends and connections actually shown, that is what I'm looking forward to so much in God of War Ragnarok. There's a story of Andvari's ring in the traditional mythology where Loki and fellow gods were being captive. To set them free, Loki had to give a payment of some kind. So the payment that Loki would eventually give is Andvari's ring and cursed treasure. In God of War Ragnarok, the character Loki has that ring. He kept it after the side quest in God of War 2018. So this could be a possible connection that we're going to see play out in the actual game. It's these little nuggets, these little hints that we don't know is going to make a connection much later on, or we can speculate that these are going to be connections later on. And honestly, that's why there's so many God of War theory channels out there, and I think this is why so many people love analyzing the story, because there is so much detail, there's so much story, there is so much lore that all of this can be shown off in God of War Ragnarok. And it's what they decide to do, but we all know God of War Ragnarok is going to be a pretty long game, so we're probably going to see all of these examples and these unfinished stories or these items that are spread out throughout the game, and what we've found out through the lore, like the text that we got, like the notebook entries. It's so fucking interesting. And then, of course, we have Eric Williams and some of the writers that are brand new to the series and working on God of War Ragnarok. They're going to want to take their own ideas as well on how to fully explain the story, have everything come full circle, and actually end while creating their own plot lines, their own side quests, their own original ideas. Not just taking ideas that Corey left in God of War 2018, but the ideas that they themselves want to create, things that they believe is going to be cool. Eric Williams did say in an interview that not only are we going to explore the 9 realms, including the ones we obviously visited, but the places that we visited before are going to be much more expanded. There's going to have much more side quests, much more main quests, and more exploration in all of these realms. There is a saying that I absolutely love, and I found this out in the Metal Gear series: building the future and keeping the past alive is one and the same thing. And we see this all over God of War 2018. This is one of the many things and the many reasons why I love God of War 2018. How do you keep the old Kratos alive yet change him so dramatically? What players saw as a fun and constant gameplay system with the constant bloodshed and battling hordes of enemies in these old games, ripping bodies apart, Kratos screaming like a madman, how do you change that to where this game is a more slower, more story heavy, but yet they're keeping the players engaged for so long? The all-powerful God of War, capable of destroying an entire pantheon like the Greeks, is now picking flowers for a character he's never met before. The god who couldn't, go 3 seconds without screaming about revenge is now extremely calm most of the time. It's all because Kratos views his past as a horrible time of his life and wants his son to be on a better path. Kratos purposely puts distance between him and his son because he didn't want the bad parts of himself rubbing off on his son. He didn't want to be the rage-fueled monster because he now has a son to look after. After I beat God of War 2018 for the first time, I realized they didn't change Kratos, they just simply gave him a reason to be better. One of my favorite things about this game is how they treat their characters and the theme of identity, which Cory Barlog did talk about in the past. Atreus and Faye did have different names that we learned throughout the story. Faye's name is actually Laufey the Just, the warrior who fought against the giants. Atreus' name is Loki, someone who's going to have a huge impact in the world of the giants. But then, did you know that Kratos' name was actually changed as well? It was changed to Farbati. Of course, in the traditional myth, this was the name of Loki's father. However, in the traditional myth, there's not a whole lot of information known about him. However, I think there's a deeper meaning in the world of God of War. Kratos is not the same person as he was in God of War 3 than at the start of God of War 2018. And he's certainly not the same person at the start of 2018 at the end of 2018. I feel like Kratos has evolved so much as a character, keeping his past alive, but also trying to create a new future for himself and his son. This is why I love Kratos so much. The storytelling in this game is simply amazing, and honestly, it's one of the reasons why I think us theorists and us God of War channels can keep going on for so long. This game was so good that there's just so much to talk about. And this is why I also think God of War Ragnarok is going to be on this level, maybe even better. Just because we're going to see the conclusions of everything, of all these little footprints that was left, we're going to follow that trail. And this is going to be one of the greatest stories I think ever made. But anyways, this is going to be it for this video. I never really made a review on God of War 2018, so you can actually consider this video a review. I really did enjoy making this video, and I love talking about God of War so goddamn much. There's less than 80 days left. I'm so fucking excited to play this goddamn game. Let me know what you all think. I'm gonna be out of here. Thank you guys and girls for listening. Deuces.
Not a weapon?
Oh, hell, why not? What? I can grow too.
Oh, watch the spine. Keep your wrist loose.
No, you keep your wrist loose. Yeah, I need more heat here.
Coming up. You gonna temper that steel longer?
You don't need to. I triple quenched it with Drago. See?
How inventive and sanitary. You clever little beaver. Never too late to learn a new trick, is it?
No, it's not. There.
Here it is.
Nope. Don't forget this.